I'm Mark, this is my garage. Today we're going to maintain the air filter on an American V-twin. Use this information at your own risk. I assume no liability. On an American V-twin, the air filter is typically in this location here. The style of the cover will vary. This here is a 2005 Big Dog Chopper, which uses a 5/32 Allen wrench to undo these 3 bolts that hold the cover in place. So we're going to take the cover off, and it's very important that you take note, especially if this is the first time you're doing this, you take note of how this filter is arranged on here, because as you see here, it goes over these 2 pegs but not over this one. Some people, they try to stretch it and go over all 3, but this is how this was configured. On a lot of the Harleys, this is actually a round configuration, so a round filter fits in nicely. If you're just replacing the filter, it's actually much easier because you just throw away the old paper filter and you swap on a new one. However, what we're going to do is we're actually going to clean this. This is a K&N filter, and it comes with a cleaning recharge kit, and we'll go into that in a second. And I prefer this because if you're just doing like a once-a-year maintenance, that's fine, toss out the filter. But if you ride as much as I do, which is my daily means of transportation, it doesn't make sense to keep going back and forth and getting more filters when you can just clean this one. Now, K&N recommends something like a ridiculous amount of mileage, like 10,000 on up mileage, where you inspect it for dirt and stuff and you clean it out. I like to be a little bit more aggressive with the cleaning, so probably every other oil change, like every maybe 5,000 miles, I'll clean out my filter. This is the K&N recharge kit, which amounts to 2 things, a cleaner and an oiler. So we'll use the cleaner first. And what you're going to do is you're just going to spray both sides of the filter generously. And just keep spraying. And the purpose of this cleaner is basically just to loosen the dirt and the grime. For future reference in this video, this is the outside of the filter, this is the inside of the filter. You'll see the outside, which faces the outside, has some bugs and a little bit more dirt collected in there. All right, so that's what we mainly want to clean, but we're going to clean both sides. And after we spray this cleaner to loosen up all that dirt and grime and stuff, we're going to actually let it sit for a while. But we do not want to let this dry, because what we want to do is we want to be able to still, you can see some of the dirty stuff dripping out of this. What we want to be able to do is hose this off, right? And I'm just going to use a sink, which is fine. So if this is dry, it prevents us from successfully hosing this cleanly through. So we've got our filter sprayed on pretty nicely. We're going to rinse out the cleaner. It hasn't dried yet, and it's important that you do 3 things. 1, you use cold water. 2, you don't use any kind of pressure. So the sink pressure is fine here, all right? Because pressurized water could potentially damage or compromise the fibers in the cleaner. And the 3rd thing to remember is you're doing it from the inside out. Because what you want to do is you want to, the debris is attempting to enter the system from the outside in, so it's here, so you want to push it back out, like so. So we're rinsing it from the inside out, give it a thorough rinse. After we've rinsed this off thoroughly, I'm going to shake it off a few times, we're going to let this dry again. And we want this to be pretty much completely dry, because the next step is going to be to oil the outside of the filter, and K&N says not, the manufacturer says not to apply the oil if the filter is wet. Now that our filter is dry, I want to point out one thing. I sensed that there may be a little bit of rain coming down. In that case, I typically put the cover back without the filter just to prevent anything from getting into the carburetor and into the system. But our filter is pretty dry. I'm going to just do one more once over just in case to get any excess dryness out of there. And we're going to take this oil, right, that comes with the recharge kit. I'm going to shake it up. And it's very important that you only spray the outside of the filter, not the inside, because the inside, you don't want to take a chance on any of this oil getting into your system. And when we spray the outside, what we're going to do is we're going to spray the top of each individual pleat. So we're going to go across like that. Get it all the way around. Once we're finished with that initial spraying, we're going to let it set to dry. About 5 minutes I'm going to turn it over because gravity is pushing the oil down this way. In about 5 minutes I'm going to flip it over the other way and let gravity sort of even it out the other way. And then the last step is I'll finish oiling any areas that are not completely covered. Now our filter's kind of been flipped both ways, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. You know, I look for the areas that are not reddish purplish, and then I could spray it again, but in looking at this filter, it looks like we got it pretty well the first time, and so there's really no need to respray any oil anywhere. Maybe a little bit on a couple of pleats here, but for the most part, we got everything. So I think a little bit here, maybe a little bit there, and we're good. So I typically just kind of wipe the edge here a little bit, wipe the edge there, and then we're going to put it back on. And remember how it was the first time originally, so we'll just kind of set it like so, and then the cover goes back on.